One of the big questions is,
what is money?
For practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, very different databases.
do you believe in crypto?
Digital currency may be an answer. It is the highly speculative asset.
I do own Bitcoin.
There is no second best.
Welcome to the Crypto Curious podcast, your weekly crypto crash course. Every Wednesday, we dive into the dynamic world of cryptocurrency, cover everything from major news stories to short, sharp news bites. If you're new to crypto, we recommend going back to our early episodes. We break down the basics and give you a solid foundation to understand the crypto world. And for the crypto curious, the seasoned addicts or the industry insiders, we're here to help you unpack the latest news and trends and insights that are shaping the market each week. Tune in, laugh and learn. It's crypto made easy. This week on the show, Trump's crypto executive orders, what they mean for the industry. And DeepSeek sparks a sell in the crypto and tech world, what you need to know. And kidnapped Ledger co-founder in France. What does it mean for crypto security? My name's Tracy, and as always, I'm joined by my mates, Blake and Craig. Welcome to the show this week, guys.
Hey Trace, great to be back and some great stories this week to cover, particularly the short, sharp news bites, ladies and gents, so stick around.
Yeah, stick around for those. Hey Craig, how you going?
Great stories, bad market. We're seeing a bit of a sell-off right now and it's making me nervous, but let's get into it. Let's figure out what's happening,
I'm
Trace.
always nervous. Wasn't that much of a sell-off, as Blake was saying earlier.
Yeah, I
but
sell off for ants.
a sell-off for ants. So Blake wanted me to remind everybody before we get started that we do have a Crypto Curious newsletter that you can jump on board. And these are for the stories that we didn't get to add in. We do have some short, sharp news bites. We do have the headline stories, but there's, as always, so much news that happens in crypto, and the newsletter picks up on those goodies that we didn't get. So jump into the show notes below and make sure you sign up for the Crypto Curious newsletter, everybody. But let's move on, guys, to the first story. And we're going to get into the biggest shakeups in the crypto space, and that is a series of executive orders from the now President Trump. And these could really redefine not just the US crypto space, but everybody's space when it comes to digital assets. And from a proposed national digital asset stockpile to a controversial crypto regulations, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's maybe jump into your thoughts, Craig, on this digital asset stockpile. I know we spoke about it a little bit during the week together.
Yeah, we did. I think Trump's done the classic announcement of an announcement. You know, you see many crypto projects do the same thing. Essentially, yeah, he's gone out with an executive order saying he's going to do a cryptocurrency working group to figure out what the best way of doing a digital asset stockpile. Now, this wording was very interesting that I found because it didn't say a Bitcoin reserve. It didn't say Bitcoin only. And it leads me to believe that potentially, David Sachs, who is, long time crypto bull, he was the one that handed Trump the executive order, and he's all over altcoins like Solana, Ethereum, and there's reports that the Ripple CEO is hanging out with Trump, HBAR. So now it's anyone's guess to what digital assets he wants to include in that stockpile. But I guess people are sort of looking at his DeFi app, World Liberty Finance, to try and take a best guess. And they've been buying up Ethereum, Bitcoin, Tron, Aave, and I think Athena. So yeah, that's what his DeFi app's been buying. So people are speculating, but it didn't really move the market that much. I think the market wasn't really sure what to make of it. And I guess we're going to find out in 180 days, which is what that executive order was. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, it was really interesting to see David Sachs come out with an interview after the executive order was signed. And he described that the group is being formed and nothing is confirmed as of this stage. I think some of these items are quite complex, not just from an execution point of view and a strategy point of view, but also from a legal and accounting point of view. So I don't think we're going to hear anything about this in the short term. And we, hopefully see something this year. But this has never been done before in this way. And yeah, so I think it'll take some
So
time.
this is part, Dave, you're talking about the working group.
Yeah,
that
the
he was
working
talking
group.
about. Okay, and that's the one that's got at least 3 months until we hear anything.
Correct.
And this all needs to go through Congress to get approval.
Yes, apparently. So, the question came up whether or not Donald Trump could just sign an executive order, or it would have to go through the House of Representatives and the Congress. So we'll wait and see.
We will. So there was another layer to this, which was the newly formed Senate Banking Digital Assets Subcommittee. And this is meant to be a path forward for crypto legislation. And that's really starting to take shape now with a very enthusiastic head of this one, which is Senator Cynthia Loomis at the helm. And everyone's really happy because she's very pro-crypto. So we're hoping that we'll then get some pro-crypto legislation for that one.
Yeah, exactly right. And hopefully some legislation around debanking, because it's been a big challenge. We saw Mark Andreessen talk about this on the Joe Rogan podcast that most entrepreneurs in the crypto ecosystem do get debanked. So hopefully they draft some legislation in that area as well.
You happy with Cynthia, Craig?
Very happy. And I guess it's good that we're at least seeing Trump make moves, even though it was really not an announcement. I guess him putting the foot down and saying, this is the working group. We want to figure it out within 180 days. So essentially 6 months to figure it all out. I think it's very promising for us as an industry. And hopefully, if World Liberty Finance is anything to go by, it includes Ethereum into the stockpile.
But it wasn't going to come out on day one and really sign the executive order for a... But look, lastly, there was this repeal of the SARB 121, which apparently will really open doors for a lot of businesses. And this one simplifies the accounting rules. Apparently, this is a very big moment and the devil is in the details. And I don't know a lot about this one. So I'm going to kind of defer to you, Blake, to give us a little bit more info on this one because it talks about the US banking system and you've had a little bit more info on that one.
Yeah, that's right, Trace. The SARB 121, it changes the accounting standards to allow banks to have cryptocurrencies on their balance sheet. So this would allow them to then offer more crypto-related products to retail and wholesale investors in the US. And this is a big move. It opens up new business functions for them and allows them to create new products. But what's getting muddled up in this is the chokehold 2.0. I think that's really a separate issue here. And I still think that the banks are going to be anti-competitive towards US-based crypto businesses. Because, they're, at the end of the day, competitors.
Okay. It's interesting that you say and think that it was kind of a bit of a hurrah, people saying lots of businesses are going to be coming to the US. It's friendly now. Maybe not then.
Yeah. The challenge is that just to use stable coins as a simple example, when you use USDC, for example, in Australia, that is moving the value offshore, and then people are using those private payment rails as opposed to the banking infrastructure to transfer money. And then as a result, the banks lose their deposits for their fractional reserve system. They lose fees on transactions. And I think that they want to keep the capital inside their ecosystem so that they could use it for everything that banks use it for. And just because this accounting measure has changed, I don't think gets to the fundamental issue here.
If anything, maybe there will just be some greater institutional adoption because of this.
Yeah, well, they're going to be pushing for them to be custodians and for regulation around banks being the appropriate custodians for cryptocurrencies. And I think it's not a bad narrative, and they'll probably grow in that space.
Okay, so those were the things that were announced by Trump. Is there anything that we can see coming in the next couple of weeks or months?
Well, there's been rumors and it's been circling around on Twitter, but it just made Forbes today, is that Eric Trump, he's all over this crypto initiative. He released a statement saying that he's keen to do capital gains exemptions for US-based crypto projects, whereas non-US crypto projects would face a 30% capital gains tax. Now, the market hasn't really responded to this, and I guess it's still unconfirmed because it hasn't come from the White House yet, but Eric Trump has released that statement.
Wasn't that yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. So what do you guys think is going to happen with if that gets approved? US projects like Ripple, Hedera, could they see a huge pump?
Yeah, well, it really depends on if it's a capital gains exemption for the purchase and sale of equities in these crypto-based companies, or it's on the crypto that these companies hold on their balance sheet. Now, they're two very different things. Now, the first one would encourage investment into crypto businesses and incentivize investors to invest into crypto firms over those using traditional technologies, versus the capital gains exemption on the increase in value of digital assets that they hold as an investment, I think this is many steps away from coming to fruition because first it has to be drafted, probably new groups that have been formed from the executive orders are going to assist with that, and then it has to go through the House of Representatives and Congress. So I think, it's just an indication or an idea, but there's a lot of steps to go through to get something like this through.
It's just moving so fast. Like even today, Trump's talking about getting rid of income tax as a whole. So, this is shaping up to be a pretty insane. If all this stuff happens, this is going to be a really insane couple of years for the industry, I suspect.
Well, look, plenty to watch when it comes to the crypto industry. And you might be wondering why we spend so much time talking about the US when we are predominantly an Australian podcast. And that's because what happens in the US doesn't just stay in the US, it does filter and ripple through other parts of the world. And legislation and things that happen there may well kind of filter through and happen here in Australia, Blake.
Exactly right. Local or smaller jurisdictions want to make sure that their regulation is aligned with the US and other major economies to make trade easy. And if they're fundamentally different, companies will use that as arbitrage or to move jurisdictions. So they need to be somewhat aligned.
We're literally seeing it now. Peter Dutton wants to do his own government efficiency Doge situation in Australia. So we're even copying other stuff.
Maybe we can get Gina Reinhart to take that role.
Can you imagine, Gina? There you go. So, like we said, staying ahead or up to date with these developments mean that we are ahead of the curve no matter where we are. Let's move on now to our second story. This week and in the last couple of days, the crypto and the tech market were rocketed by a new player in the AI game called DeepSeek. This is a Chinese developed AI that's outperforming the OpenAI, and it's really kind of shocked the competition. Bitcoin briefly dipped below 100K in the last 24 hours as equities took a massive nosedive, and nearly 90 million in crypto positions were liquidated in a single day. So let's break down exactly what happened here and why DeepSeek matters to our industry, which could be a bit of a turning point for decentralized AI and the blockchain. Who wants to take us out on this one?
I can kick off and just quickly explain why this is affecting crypto. Tech stocks are often correlated with digital assets because essentially they have many similar qualities. And on the risk curve, Bitcoin and other digital assets are higher risk. So when the traditional tech market crashes, people remove their crypto positions, and as a result, it creates this correlation. So what happens in big tech does affect crypto.
And that all happened the last 24 hours. So I think a lot of people was it NVIDIA? How much did that drop yesterday, Craig?
It dropped 20% pre-market. It's down about 17% now, which is huge for a, $2.5 trillion company. But just to, echo what Blake said, I think this is such a timely release of DeepSeek. And why it's important is because this app was developed for just $6 million, and people are saying it's even better than ChatGPT, which cost, how much does that cost to develop? Maybe in the billions? I don't know. Do you guys know?
Well, they've been around for 7 years, 8 years, and they've spent a lot of money on R&D or research and development. And I could imagine they would have spent billions and billions of dollars.
And they said, what? We did it for how much? 6 million?
6 million.
I think this just pertains to the training of the model, which is the server costs. And it may be amortized over the lifetime of the servers. So it could just relate to the electricity or the renting of the servers, for example.
So this is a bit more of a geopolitical.
Well, I was just going to say, it comes very timely because last week, Trump was with OpenAI and a few other companies putting together an AI $500 billion fund to build AI infrastructure in the US. So this comes a week after China have just proved that they can do it as good as what ChatGPT can for, 1/100th of a cost. And I guess what, investors are thinking is, does all this stuff need a repricing? NVIDIA has been probably the best stock to own in the last few years. That's going to come down, and it's people are actually getting a little bit worried about what that could mean moving forward. If US tech stocks are extremely overvalued, as Blake mentioned, that's going to affect crypto as well because it's on the riskier curve of.
Yeah. But I guess one of the positive signs is that crypto didn't move as much as the major tech
and
stocks.
rebounded very quickly. All right, well, let's move on from that one there and go to our third story, which is a little bit of a different one. We saw, it was actually quite shocking, actually. This one is an incident. A Ledger co-founder, David Balland, and his wife were kidnapped in France and held captive and subjected to some quite horrible violence. The story has gripped mainstream media with coverage in Forbes and The Times and a few other major outlets. And it's a bit of a chilling reminder at the risks associated with crypto ownership and some of the security challenges of being your own bank. So let's talk a little bit further about this story. Craig, do you want to tell us a bit more?
Yeah, this is one of the craziest stories I've heard in a while, and it really shows the dark side of crypto self-custody. So what happened was David Balland and his wife, they were kidnapped, they were held hostage, and the kidnappers cut or severed one of Ballard's fingers and sent a video to demand a Bitcoin ransom. Now, Ledger did work with legal experts and teams to freeze the ransom payments, but yeah, very scary. When you are your own bank, this can definitely happen. Like, have you seen anything like this happen before?
Well, there was a similar situation in Canada with a guy named Dean from WonderFi, which is a listed crypto exchange on the TSX last year. But this is called the wrench attack problem. And we have seen 7 or 8 attacks like this over the past year. And just like a story that I had recently was that when I was in Brussels for a conference, there were people targeting those wearing lanyards for the conference around the city during the evenings to mug them and try and steal.
Just had your name on them. Yeah.
Had your name and your role. And so you're encouraged to hide any wristbands or lanyards that you had on as you were going to bars and side events. And I think this is just going to continue.
Safety is important. Worth noting there that Dean, who we reported on last year from Canada, who was taken from the middle of the street in broad daylight, was actually returned and he was safe. And as the same with Mr. Ballard and his wife, they did get them home safely as well. But there have been many who haven't been. Like there's a guy that rocked up in Brazil in a suitcase, dismembered on the side of the river. So it's not always a good ending.
Yeah, time to get some security over here at Bamboo HQ.
So, I mean, look, we're laughing now, but yeah, it's a bit of a reminder that you need to safeguard not just your private keys, but any way that people can get any sensitive information about you and your home life and your private life. So make sure that you have taken all your precautions out there, folks. And with that sparkling bit of news, let's take a break and we'll come back with our short, sharp news bites. Time now for our short, sharp news bites. You're listening to The Crypto Curious, and these are brought to you by the Bamboo app. We got 6 short, sharp news bites. They're all really good this week. So Dogecoin ETF filings. Bitwise has filed for a Dogecoin ETF, a move that could bring institutional validation to the world's largest and first meme coin, currently valued at $52 billion. Overtaken for a very short amount of time by his mate Trump. This filing follows similar moves by Rex Shares and Osprey Funds, highlighting growing interest in meme coin investment products. If approved, a Dogecoin ETF could attract conservative investors and drive up Doge prices, potentially mimicking a $50 billion inflow seen by Bitcoin ETFs last year. This is big news, and why it matters is an ETF approval could legitimize Dogecoin in traditional markets, turning what was a speculative meme coin into a more mainstream investment vehicle, which really does give validation. And also we know that Doge is the Elon Musk Department of Government Efficiency. And he last week briefly flashed up the Dogecoin logo on the website of that and fueled some kind of speculation that it might be hand in hand there. So there you go, Dogecoin. What's up next?
Well, just on the topic of ETFs, Monochrome just launched their Litecoin ETF today. So they submitted their Litecoin ETF application.
Oh, wow. And Monochrome is, yes, Aussie-based
ETF provider.
ETF, Jeff Yu.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Jeff Yu. We love Jeff. Yes, congratulations.
All right, up next, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, the world's largest investment manager, says he has called on the SEC to rapidly accelerate tokenization of assets like stocks and bonds and other financial products. And this is a huge move. And I think comes at a really good time, particularly as the leadership of the SEC has just changed. Larry Fink also came out in the last couple of weeks calling for a $700,000 Bitcoin if inflation continues on its current trajectory. I know last year, every 100 days, an additional $1 trillion was being added to US government debt and an additional $1 trillion every 100 days. And when you look at this chart, it is exponential. And what this really demonstrates is that we're going through a period of potential, not just inflation, but moving into potential hyperinflation if the spending stays at this level. And this is really creating an environment for your $700,000, $1 million Bitcoin in the coming years. So watch this space, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this is a bit of a mover and shaker, Trace. Jupiter spikes 40% amid a token buyback announcement. Now, Jupiter is a Solana-based DEX aggregator. So they're designed at letting you buy those shit coins at a good price. You can also swap Solana, USDC for any Solana-based project. But why they're making moves is because they're actually using 50% of their fee revenue to buy back Jupiter tokens and then burn them. So they're effectively pumping the price of Jupiter. They've also acquired a majority stake in Moonshot, which was a story we covered last week with the Trump meme coin launch. And they shot up to number one app on the App Store, Moonshot. So that's a huge play. And they've also launched a $10 million AI fund. So Jupiter are making moves here. And in a sea of red, they're probably the only green token in the top 100 today. So good for Jupiter.
Okay, and going back to Solana, whose TVL has skyrocketed 600%. So what I mean by TVL is total value locked. And over the past year, it was, what was it, it's 9.7 billion, up from 1.4 billion. That's massive growth, and that was driven by the launch of Trump token, which generated over 11 billion in volume since it debuted on the 17th of January. But other key drivers include Solana's leading DEX Radium, which accounts for 2.59 billion in TVL, and the network's robust activities metrics with 300 million daily transactions and over 4 million active addresses, which is pretty massive. What is it? Ethereum is 68 billion TVL. So, wow, that's some big numbers. And Solana is definitely emerging as a competitive force in the DeFi.
All right, next up we have Thorchain. Thorchain is an Aussie-founded project by JP Thor, and it is a blockchain that supports cross-chain transactions. So when you want to swap your Ethereum for Solana, it makes it really easy to do that. But they've also built other products on top of their blockchain, which is like a lending and borrowing market. So you can deposit your crypto and borrow stable coins or other assets against it. And this is the product that is facing a $200 million insolvency. That's because of potentially the way it was designed. Now, they have $111 million borrowed with $98 million locked in the vaults. And what they've done is pause any withdrawals for the next 90 days to buy the community time in order to find a solution forward. I don't think this is that bad. I think they're going to get through this. I don't think this changes the fundamentals of the blockchain, but rather just the application built on top of it of this lending market. As a result of that, the native token on the blockchain, Rune, has taken a massive dive, and we see all sorts of chatter on Twitter about this one. The net difference is something like $13 million, and I think that they'll be able to find a way through it. But certainly, it's not a good sign at this time in the market cycle. So we'll follow this one as well.
Interesting. What's next for your last story, Craig?
Last one, guys. This is a bit of an Ethereum update. So Vitalik Buterin he's a wartime general at the moment. He's seeing all of the attention going to Solana, and he's fired up, Vitalik. So Ethereum has been stagnant, and they've been facing a lot of criticism from Ethereum holders, such as myself. This criticism includes the Ethereum Foundation selling down ETH, how layer 2s aren't really complementary to Ethereum. Now, Vitalik called for the layer 2 networks to start burning and staking their fees on ETH to support ETH's value and urge rapid improvements in L2 security and censorship resistance. Now, the vibe's changing a bit with Ethereum. I think, there's also a new marketing arm of Ethereum. The community's down bad. The Ethereum Bitcoin chart, we're talking about it before. It's down bad. I think this is the bottom. If you're listening, I think this is the bottom of Ethereum potentially.
If you say it every week, Craig,
Yeah,
you've got to
you're
be
gonna be
right.
you're gonna be
Say it
right
every
one
week. If you
week.
say it every week, we're gonna be right one week. What do you guys think? Tracy, what are your thoughts?
On Ethereum now,
Yes. Now.
look, you used to look at the fundamentals and then cross that with a little bit of technical analysis. And the technical analysis right now is telling us that this could potentially be the bottom. And, some fundamentals are telling us that in the past, quantitative easing and interest rates easing and all those things are potentially happening in the next few months. So I don't think it's right now. I think it's coming. But this is crypto. Anything can happen.
I think what is really interesting here is that Ethereum has solved the scaling issue that held it back in the previous cycles. It solved the cost associated with transactions to allow it to be more democratic or more accessible to more people. However, as a result of that, it's collecting less fees, and the price has taken a hit as a result of that. So I just don't think that all of these improvements on the protocol are really priced in to the value of the Ethereum protocol now, particularly because it's still down from its all-time highs.
I still think there's also a momentum to come, but there's also psychology. Everyone's waiting. So even if it has that slight uptick, then you're going to have people that fall in. And
Crypto is a momentum thing, and more it's dictated by what's happening in the macro environment with, like you said, Trace, the interest rates. And
anyway, we shall see. Look, that is all this week, but there's a story that's kind of started up in the last 12 hours that we probably will touch on a little bit now, which is this Venice AI or the Triple V token. I don't know whether you guys have both locked eyes on that, which is quite interesting. I'm going to put some more details on that into the Facebook group. So jump into that and we'll talk a little bit more about that story next week. But thanks for joining us today, folks, in this crypto world. If you have enjoyed the journey, bring a friend who's interested in crypto along next time. But until then, stay curious, stay connected. You can do that again, like we said, by joining our Facebook group or our Instagram page. We have that weekly newsletter. Please join up on that one. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to us now. If you want to DCA into the crypto space, have a look at the Bamboo app. You can do so by using a code CURIOUS, which will give you $10 of free Bitcoin to get you started. There's another link in the show notes below. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.
bye, guys.
Bye, guys.